share the stream on Facebook and Discord. I'm waiting for that to load. I will share my screen here. Doesn't want to share my screen. Excellent.
Alright, Mr. Burns. Excellent.
Oh, I won't even load Facebook. Oh, I'm having major issues. Like,
I've got major problems.
Like, I did a speed test literally like 10 minutes ago, and it was coming back at 60 megs. So I don't understand why I'm having. Yeah.
This is like what was happening to me yesterday. We've moved offices from temporary. There's no hardwired connection on the floor. It's all wireless. So we've all had to buy Wi-Fi dongles because our towers don't receive Wi-Fi wireless thing.
Yeah.
It's just all gone to shit. Like, the internet will just drop out randomly. So I'm working in CAD and I go to save something to the server and it goes, "You're working offline." I'm like, well, this is just fucking great. If I want to access something, I've got to wait about an hour. I've just got nothing done all day.
Nightmare.
Painful. And I've got like site ringing me. I tallied it up today. I got rang 6 times today. I lost an hour and a half of work time sorting out shit that was like obvious to start with.
Yeah. I feel your pain. Right, it seems to have sorted itself out now. Fingers crossed. Have you got it?
I can watch your stream.
Awesome. Right, okay. In that case, let me get rid of that. And we will... Right, I'll go live, do the track guide. You can pop out and speak to Matty, and then we'll just get going.
Cool.
I just realised this entire time our mics have been on during the start of that stream on the holding screen, so apologies folks to those watching it back. I'm having technical issues today. Anyway, let's go live. Hello one and all, and welcome back to Final Drive Simulation. Hello guys, and we are back. We are at a wonderful Laguna Seca for the finale of Final Drive Sim Racing. And I do apologise, my intro video for some reason is not working today, so I'm having lots of gremlins. I do apologise folks, but and I forgot to mute myself, so you will hear me at the start of the stream talking absolute nonsense. As usual. I'm joined in the comments box by my good friend Aaron Markham.
Hello.
And welcome, my friend. And we are missing Dougie at the moment, but he will join us at some point. We're running a little bit behind, as I say, lots of little gremlins in my systems today, so if we do get any issues, I apologise in advance. I'm almost anticipating a few issues today because it's been such a nightmare, but we're back. We're excited. It's the final race of the season. Laguna Seca, as you can see on screen, it's wet, which is going to make things interesting. I think it's only rained at Laguna Seca twice since the dawn of time, and it happens to be raining today. So without further ado, I will go to my track guide now, get that put on the screen, and then me and Aaron will discuss the intricacies of Laguna Seca following that. So here we go, here's the track guide. Hi guys, and welcome to the final race of the season, final track guide of the season. And what a track to finish out. We're at Laguna Seca. but it's wet, as you can see, so I've been brave. I've put the wet weather on to emulate what it's going to be like for the drivers. I've done a couple of sight-in laps, full disclosure there, because I haven't driven Laguna Seca for a while, but also haven't driven in the wet for a very long time on ACC. I did drive you once in the wet before in Renault Clios on Project Cars 2, but I mean that's a long time ago, different car, different software. So I wanted to get a good feel for it, and as you'll see this week I'm in the McLaren, which is a car I haven't driven for a little while. So let's see how it goes. So just put my wipers on so I can actually see where I am going, which is quite important. So down the final corner. Oh, I've got that a little bit wrong. So I usually short shift out of corners when you're in first gear in the wet weather because the traction control kicks in so bad it just bogs the car really down. So here we go through the left, down towards the first couple of corners, down to first, just gently on the throttle, getting the car turned, again short shifting up to second, down towards the right hander, hard on the brakes, get the car turned in, back on the power. As you can see I'm sliding about all over the place. I'm losing to my Ghost at the moment. Hard on the brakes again, and then back on the power as quick as possible. Coming up we've got the double left-hander, so you want to be on the brakes, get the car turned in gently onto the power as soon as possible. This is the tricky one in these conditions. You don't want to be too late on the brakes because you will fly off into that gravel trap there, which obviously is not good. So you brake a little bit earlier than normal for the corkscrew, get the car turned in, back on the power again, short shift to second to stop any spinning of the wheels. This is really tricky. There's absolutely no grip through this left-handed downhill section. And then you're on the brakes again for the right-hander, off camber, all over the place, especially in the wet. Now there's absolutely no grip at all. Back down to first, get the car turned in, back on the power, and again short shift to second just to get that traction, and down towards the start-finish line. And there we go, that is a lap. So let's go for another one and see if we can beat it. Definitely much more confident through that section. And that's what I was talking about, overcooking that corner, which is exactly what I did. So this lap is not valid because I did that, but still, and we lost like the 0.6 of a second that I was up to that point. But we'll see the lap through. Yeah, so we did beat the lap time, and that would have been a mid 37 had we not made that mistake. Probably a 37.3 if not for that mistake, but I did make the mistake, so there we go. I've got to live with that. But yeah, Laguna Seca on the wet, big challenge, endurance race, a lot for the guys to think about and a lot going on. And strategy may be different as well in the wet because the car's going to use less fuel. The tyre, the way the tyres weigh is completely different with the wet. So, intriguing race ahead. Back to the live action. So So there we go. That's Laguna Seca in the wet. So intriguing session ahead. This is quali now. It has now started. So Aaron, first chance we've really had to chat about this track in detail. So give us your thoughts on the intricacies of Laguna Seca.
Yeah, it's not really a track I've driven that much, but I have had a little bit of experience around Laguna Seca. Looked very difficult for yourself. It looked like the car was plagued with understeer. It looks really, 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 really tricky, especially that last sector. You know, that sort of winding left-hander after the corkscrew. That just looks like an absolute nightmare. This man that we're watching on screen, we know it's not really one of his tracks. It's a bit of a bogey track, so I think this is going to be really tricky, and it's not going to be like Zolder, which seemed to be a case of oversteer moments and avoiding puddles. This seems like it's going to be almost the opposite of just painfully slow, keeping the car on the track because there's just not really any grip there, and it could be a long old race for the boys. But one man who definitely will have some practice around here, who's kindly joined us in the comms box this evening, is Mr. Matty Heaton.
Good evening, gents.
Good evening, Matty. Obviously, qualifying ban for yourself. A little bit unlucky, but what are your prospects for this evening, and how are you finding the conditions of practicing in the rain?
Yeah, it's call it bad. It's kind of, I was a bit disappointed, but at the same time, it's kind of understandable due to the incidents that happened at Barca. And to be fair, with the conditions and going into turn one, I think I'm actually kind of glad to be at the back, because it gives me a chance to sort of play it a bit coy and wait for the potential chaos in turn one and try and take advantage of a few spots. But I'd not raced this track at all until this week, and I've put some hours in, and it seems to have clicked all right, to be fair. I'm feeling fairly confident with my pace, and I'm hopeful I can make a few spots up tonight.
No, totally reasonable, and you make that point of the first corner. You know, the first corner at Laguna Seca is almost notorious for incidents anyway, so even in the rain that's going to be tripled, I think, or quadrupled. So starting from the back could actually be a blessing in disguise, like you say. But in terms of the track, it genuinely is quite a flowing track, so the fact that you've picked it up pretty quickly doesn't surprise me. Hopefully there's a bit of carnage in front of you for you to pick up some positions.
Yeah, I'm hopeful for it. Bear with me. Let me just quickly turn down my crew chief, because I'm pretty sure that just came through, so I do apologise.
No problem.
I am hopeful, to be fair, of making up a few spots, and looking at it, potentially that Mr. Ingle may potentially, if he doesn't get here soon, miss out on quali, which means he'll be at the back with me. So hopefully that will potentially give me some more opportunity to sort of follow him through some gaps, maybe, if people make some mistakes.
Very true.
I certainly won't be pushing it, because I don't want to have any more incidents that cause me to have the quali ban in the first place.
No, you make a good point. In general, though, how's that Lamborghini handling around here? You know, Wes is in P2. He looks solid. Are you finding it okay for pace?
Yeah, it's, to be fair, again, the setup. Wes has provided me with setups all season, because it's something that I'm going to be working on now that the season's over a bit more. I can't complain at all, to be fair. It does fit, as long as I get my braking points right, it does feel pretty good and fairly planted through the majority of it. There are a couple of wobbly moments, as Mike will know from doing that track guide. Although, to be fair, the couple of corners that I did catch, he seemed to nail quite well. So.
Awesome.
Cool. In defense of that, though, it was a particularly slow lap. It was nowhere near this pace. I'm not sure whether I had the track a little bit wetter than this, maybe, which could have accounted maybe for about a second of it. But regardless, I'm not quite on the pace of you guys in these conditions. But in terms of I mentioned in the track guide about the differences to a normal endurance race, if you like, if you put normal in inverted commas.
Yeah.
With it being wet, you'll probably use less fuel. The tyre wear will be different. What the sort of little caveats that we need to look out for with regards to tyre wear and fuel?
So the line is coming in quite quickly, especially with. I mean, we're now going to have Dom's just made it into quali, so that'll get him out the front, out of my way. There'll be a dry line that does come in, and I say dry, it's going to carry on raining through the race, but a drier line definitely comes in, which we all noticed last night when we was on practicing together. Once you get a certain amount of drivers on the track, it does get quicker and quicker on that racing line, so times will start to come down, and there are still some drivers contemplating potentially not stopping.
That was going to be my next question. Is
Mm.
because of the lower fuel use, you can probably comfortably get away with not putting fuel in. It's a question of can you make the tyres last for 80 minutes, really, isn't it?
That's exactly it, and it's on the limit. It is doable with fuel, maybe with a tiny bit of fuel saving. So for me personally, my calculator is working out that I need 121 litres of fuel, and I can put 120 into the Lamborghini. So I could probably make it. But one thing that I'm not confident is going to make it, particularly for me personally, obviously person's driving style is different, but tyres is the big question.
Yeah.
And I do feel like the majority are probably going to stop, but I'm intrigued to see whether one or two potentially try and go with a no stop and try and hold off some rampaging drivers on fresher tyres towards the end of the race.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to watch it. We'll keep an eye out for that. That's great insight. I mean, it's car dependent as well, isn't it? All the cars use different levels of fuel, and as you say, driving style comes into it in terms of fuel management, tyre management. It's not a simple, equation then.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Like you say, different cars, people have slightly different lines. People have different driving styles. It'll all come down to the individual driver. But it's as much as I haven't necessarily got anything to lose. It's not something I'm going to gamble on, especially when, although it's not a lot of attention on it, the team's championship is rather tight at the top, and we are potentially there's a chance for me and Wes. So I want to do as well as I possibly can.
Awesome. Well, cheers for coming in. I mean, that's given us some great insight. Thank you for coming in. A shame you didn't get out there in quali, but you've got plenty of practice laps under your belt, so we wish you good luck for the race, and hopefully we'll speak to you later on tonight.
Yeah, I'll be in. Thank you for having me, gents. Really appreciate it.
No trouble.
Thanks, Matty. Thank you.
Cheers. Take care.
Great catching up with Matty there, and he's got a tough race ahead of him, but it's one of those where I think they call the rain the great equalizer, don't they? So it's one of those where if you just get it right, and people making mistakes, if he just keeps his nose clean and picks his way through the field, he could have a really strong finish today, despite starting from the back.
Yeah, it's that old classic of big risk, big reward, isn't it? So, like he says, I mean, Dom's just joined qualifying. He's got 4 minutes, so I think his hope of following Dom through is going to disappear quickly. But if there was ever a race where anything really could happen because of the conditions, it's going to be a race like this. If it's a race where you want a qualifying ban, it's an endurance race like this. So ironically, the rain is going to probably be the perfect storm for Matty tonight, and if there's ever a great opportunity to make up lots of positions with a qualifying ban, it's on a race like this where it's absolutely tonking it down. Interesting that you mentioned the dry line, though. I do think that keeping the tyres in the window will be a huge equaliser, and it'll be interesting to see how strategy goes, especially if it is theoretically possible to go to the end. That could be a huge thing we need to keep an eye for.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if people are willing to take that risk. And as I was saying, some cars do use less litres per lap than others. So, I mean, particularly the Lambo, the Aston, I think are quite thirsty cars. Whereas I think, from memory, the McLaren and the Honda, for example, are a little bit less thirsty. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see, because I mean that's one thing, is there is no standardized engine like you get in F1. I know they're made by different people, but they've got a standard spec list, haven't they? Whereas these can be V8s, V12s, V6 hybrid.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of different engines in this. So they very much have got their own engines that the road car would have, but obviously in race tunes. So yeah, there's all sorts of different motors out there, which will make it very interesting. But we've got a couple of minutes of quali left to go yet, so let's just do a quick run through and see where people are as it stands. So Kingston is out in front, and he's just improved on his time as well. He's done a 31.7, which is sickening. Dom Ingle is literally just joined the lobby, and he's already in second place with 32 flat. So good on him. And then Adam Foster in third place. So the top three in the championship are the top three today, not in the order they are in the championship. Foster and Ingle would need to be swapped for that, but it's looking like it's Kingston's to lose still at this point. It's going to take a pretty disastrous race for him to lose this championship at this point. Graham Morris in fourth, again continues his great improvement throughout the season. He seems more and more consistent now, and I will say the McLaren felt really good in the wet conditions. I know I wasn't particularly quick, but the car felt planted and secure. A little bit understeery, but then, I literally used the default setup. These guys will have had time to set their cars up to be suitable for the conditions, whereas I didn't have that earlier. So I'm expecting the McLarens to be quite comfortable today. Wes Beekhouse then in fifth position. In the Lamborghini. Richard Arnold is then in sixth. Good showing from him so far in the NSX. Bart Tonks is back tonight in the Ferrari. He's been missing for a few weeks, but great to see him back, and he's having a pretty good session so far. Kevin DeHart surprisingly low, I'd say, for an Aston with no ballast. You'd expect him really to be challenging the top three, but maybe he's finding these conditions a little harder than others. Darrell Weaver's in the top 10 at the moment. Great showing from him. Michael Mooney, who's bad time to join him, he's just gone off track. Lloyd Reed surprisingly low down as well. He's 12th. Damien Humphries 13th. Mark Burnett is 14th. Dan Stevens 15th. Ash Humphries in 16th position. Prescott in 17th, Lewis Richards, one of the new drivers, in 18th, and Matt Heaton, who obviously can't qualify, is in the pit lane and last position. But yeah, Ash really struggling with McLaren. Just after I was telling everybody how awesome the McLaren is, Ash appears to be having a bit of trouble.
Yeah, and like you alluded to earlier, it's that equaliser, isn't it? Not everybody can drive well in the wet, and two guys who you'd expect to be up there, Kevin DeHaan and Ash, sadly aren't. A bit of a shocker, really, and this is probably why this type of weather was selected for the final race of the season, because it sort of just throws everything out the window, doesn't it? It's not going to be the classic people potentially leading the way and storming away with it. It's going to be a lot more down to driver skill and ability to drive around problems and issues that's going to ultimately reward the winner tonight. And Ash has bailed out of it, so he's going to start P16.
Yeah,
that's a long way back.
That is a bit of a surprise. I mean, and I don't mean this in an offensive way. I wasn't exactly expecting him to challenge for pole, but I was certainly expecting him to be a fair bit higher up than that. So there we go. That is quali then. Alex Kingston on pole for the final race of the season, and in a commanding position to fight away and take that championship that he has led for so much of this season. Dominic Ingle second, Adam Foster third. We've seen issues, we've seen contact, we've seen plenty of incidents and awesome racing from these guys all season, so it's certainly not over yet, and in these conditions absolutely anything can happen, and back markers in these conditions as well is going to be key for that second phase of the race. So a lot of interesting caveats to this race yet to come. I believe we are joined in the comments box by a special guest, aren't we, Aaron?
I believe we are too. Mystery guest, would you like to reveal yourself?
Is that me? Fair enough. Yeah,
I think it's
Hi.
you.
Why is this not much of a mystery anymore, boys? Come on, it's my own chair I have sitting here. I thought we might be talking about Mr. Heaton. I understand he had a bit of a moonlighting session with you boys a moment ago.
He certainly did. We had some
But
great insight from him during the early parts of quali, taking us through all the little nuances that you guys have got to look forward to. So that was great insight from him. But yeah, shame for him he couldn't qualify today, but you could, and a fantastic sixth position for yourself. Yeah. What you got to say?
Yeah, pretty happy with that. Again, I think I've said it before. The wet weather seems to suit me. I mean, it's not particularly that I like it much, like any more than the dry. In fact, I kind of hate the wet weather, but it doesn't seem to affect me maybe as much as everyone else. But I always seem to do pretty well in the wet. So really happy with that. Surprised when I went pole to begin with. You know, we kind of knew the track was going to dry, so that was never going to stay there for long. But yeah, surprised to not see me falling down the tree. So yeah, pretty happy with that. The spray's going to be a killer lap one.
Yeah.
So unless you're up the front, it's going to hurt you wherever you are. So it's a case of trying to keep it clean and just trying to get through the first couple of corners and then see where we are. It's an endurance race, as we all know, guys. It's a long, long way to the end. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. This.
Very true. Very true. I see Adam's kindly joined us as well in the comms box. Our two usual suspects.
Good evening.
We're the only ones with buttons that are mapped to the comms thing. We're the only ones that can do it whilst we're driving. That's the only reason we're here.
Well, I'll tell you what then, I'll ask you a question collectively, because you are both in a unique position to answer this. So
10 seconds.
I was curious as to what side of the grid you actually want to be starting on going into turn one, and since you are on differing sides of the grids, I feel like this is a good question to ask the two of you.
I
Oh,
don't know. It's a very good one because outside line has got you can carry the speed on the outsides.
I was about to say,
Inside-
speed-wise, if I was on my own, I'd definitely say the outside. But with everyone, you know, you're more likely to get taken out by someone flying through and
I'm
and
just steering
sliding.
out.
So, yeah. Oh, that's a good question. That's a tough one. I think at the start, probably I prefer the inside. I think during the race, the outside line's quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah, cutting it off double apex style usually race line.
Or that's the excuse I usually use, but generally it means I've outbroke myself and I've gone wide. But you know, generally it's I cut back for the double apex.
The thing that sticks in the back of my mind is going into the outside into turn one, you might be at a disadvantage, but as it sort of goes back into effectively the right hand kink out of turn two and then turn 3/4, you'll be on the inside, won't you?
You're completely right. I think the only issue with that is obviously in these conditions, we're going to be doing it blind. You know, you're literally not going to be able to see where the track's going. You're going to have cars either side of you. It's going to be hard work to stick around the outside with someone. It's going to be, you know, getting single file as soon as you can and just let it play out would be the sensible thing to do. But
I don't foresee many overtakes on the first few corners.
Yeah. Unless there's carnage.
Yeah, exactly. Oh dear.
Right, Mike, I'll hand back over to you as I greedily hopped in there.
No, it's fine. I was just going to say I did do the track guide in the wet to get a feel for the conditions. And the car, I was in the McLaren this week, but the car felt surprisingly planted, a little bit understeery, but then I didn't really get a chance to do any sort of setup. But there's still plenty of grip out there, is how it felt to me, and that was just with one car going around. So is that the case?
After about 2 or 3 laps, there'll be more grip than what there is at the start because a so-called dry line will form. But yeah, the conditions we've got. It's quite tricky.
Well, you're getting to that point of the lap now, so we'll let you get on with it. Thank you very much, gents. We'll speak to you in 18 minutes or so. Have a good one.
Have a good one, chap. See you in a bit.
And yeah, great to speak to Rich and Adam as usual. So we're getting towards that final corner now. We are in heli mode. We just popped down onto the splitter cam momentarily. I can't find it now. There it is. earlier just to see how bad the spray was, and considering this was just the formation lap, the spray was already terrible, so it'd be interesting to see what that looks like. And apologies, I had to go into my settings while the guys were talking there, because I was still in triple screen mode. I was wondering why it looked a bit funny. But we are flat to the floor, and away we go down the first corner. I say flat to the floor, probably tentatively to the floor in these conditions, but already they're just taking a little look, but they're taking it nice and easy. No silly moves, nothing silly. In through those first corners, just keeping it nice and clean. Nobody wants to spoil anyone's race this early on. But it is Kingston from Ingle, from Foster.
Terrible.
Yeah, it does look like that is the case, where you normally expect the dirty side of the track to have more grip at this phase. It doesn't look like that is the case. It's almost pre-predicting it being wetter off the racing line. Great start by Damien Humphries, though. He's already up into the top 10. Very, very aggressive start from him, and he's already up, I think, 3 positions, is it? Oh no, he must have.
As well.
No, he's breaking even actually, so he must have improved on a late lap in quali, and I must have missed it. But yeah,
Dan, moving to the corkscrew. Wow.
Dan Stevens has made up positions, but yeah, Humphries. Making positions back that he'd lost off the start, I think, is the correct phrase. But
who was start for Lloyd Reed, Mike and Michael Mooney as well.
Yeah,
I think those two might have had it coming together.
Yeah, it does look like that is the case. Let's see if we can pick anything up on the replay.
It's always difficult, isn't it, on the opening lap? There's about 6 different things happening and you can't catch it all.
Yeah, so this is Lloyd Reed, so he's
side by side with the new guy in the McLaren.
Yeah. Yeah, so at this point,
wonder if he just loses it.
Yeah, at this point he's quite a bit ahead of Mooney. But,
I wonder if he does a U and runs a little bit wide.
Oh no, he got hit from behind by the McLaren, and then he's just a passenger at that point, and they all just collected each other. Oh, that's a shame. Yeah, the new guy in the McLaren just making contact with him there, which is a shame.
Nothing. It wasn't intentional though, was it?
Oh no, not at all. He just got caught up by the conditions. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, that happened to me in the last wet race that I actually did on this software, which was at Imola, and this was back in my PlayStation days, and yeah, I was in the NSX, and we were coming round to the downhill section before the last 2 corners of Imola, and I just completely lost it in these types of conditions, and that was it. It was game over, and that was on the formation lap, I think.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was horrendous. I took about 4 people out.
Ooh.
Good fun though.
I tell you what, because I have absolutely distracted you, I don't think you've changed the intervals over. It's showing the fastest lap differences. It
is. Don't take the blame for that. That will definitely be.
I will take the blame for that, Mike. I will take the blame for that.
No, I've had plenty of time to sort that out, and I just haven't done it. Simple as that. But yeah, there's Richard Arnold and Kevin DeHaan getting nice and close together, and I think Kevin just made his way through.
It's Alan, isn't it? Not Rich.
Oh, it is Alan. Sorry, apologies, but we did just miss that. So let's jump on with Kevin. Again, let's jump on board with him and see how he made that move down into the first turn. So
he seems to be quite quick, Kevin, just watching him on that lap there. But he seemed a little bit slow in the corkscrew because Damo nearly put it on the inside of him. So that could explain where he's running a little bit slower. And sometimes, I don't know if you'll agree, Mike, I feel like when you're running in a race and you're battling with people and following them, you can copy off their lines where they're quick, and sometimes even in the touring cars I'll lap quicker in the race than what I do in qualifying, just from following other people's driving techniques.
Oh, absolutely. You certainly improve as the race goes on by following other people. I mean, last night's race for us was a prime example. Just as we watch Bart Tonks make a move on Graham Morris up into the corkscrew. It's coming, I promise. We're not quite there yet. Race one I used as a learning point, and then in the second race I was much more competitive against Polyflack, but unfortunately my internet then pooped itself, to put it politely, and that was the end of that, and I was sent crashing out of the lobby with 0 internet. But there we go. That is what it is. But yeah, we've seen. We were told we weren't going to see many overtakes, but we've seen a few already. A couple of small incidents, but we've certainly seen some overtaking as well. And Damien Humphries and Bat Tonks and Kevin DeHaan all making moves. Darrell Weavers has lost a couple of positions. Let's just take a look at the replay. We see Ash Humphries has just made his way past, and then Matty Heaton got past as well, so I've gone up to Helicam to try and get as good a view as possible. So there's Weaver's braking for the first turn. Oh, and he runs super wide. Yeah. He just compromised his line. And that's thrown him off then. That is a shame.
Do you know what? That looks clumsy, but it's so easy to do, isn't it? As you're trying to recover the pace that you've lost from going wide, and then you end up actually going even more wide for turn 3, effectively.
Oh, absolutely. My first few sort of sighting laps, because as I said in my track guide, I did sighting laps this week. I didn't just go in blind because of the conditions. I hadn't driven Laguna Seca for so long, and I certainly hadn't driven it in the wet before. So I did a few sighting laps, and they were not pretty. Let's put it that way. But I think I did 4 or 5 laps just to sort of find my feet, and then went for it. But yeah,
I really don't blame you. I wouldn't have liked to have seen those blind laps. Or maybe I would have, actually. It might have made me feel a bit better.
Oh, it would have made you chuckle, I can promise you that.
He must be so happy with that, though. That start, Matty Heaton. He couldn't have hoped for anything better, really.
No, I mean, he's kept it clean. Him and Humphries, you'd expect to be on a similar sort of pace. I mean, you usually expect Matty to be a little bit slower than Humphries, but Humphries seems to be struggling in these conditions, so they should be there or thereabouts in this race, or maybe they'll just pull each other along and see how high they can get. But it's not quite on the verge of the top 10 yet. Dan Stevens having a pretty good race so far, keeping pace with Damien Humphries. And of course, I think it's Humphries and Heaton that are in the battle for that second championship, isn't it? If I could remember correctly, I can't quite remember. I think them two are in the battle for that second championship. I might be wrong on that one, but I've been wrong before, and no doubt I'll be wrong again. Let me just see.
Oh, Bad Tonks has slipped down the order a little bit. I think he's made a mistake. Yep, there he is, off track. He was just off to the side there.
Yeah.
A shocker.
Let's
first race back, though.
Yeah.
You kind of expect these things, don't you?
So he's gone through the corkscrew, he's coming down, so I think I was towards the main straight, wasn't it? So
yeah, it's coming up very short.
Oh, there it is.
He's caught the bump.
Yeah, he's just caught the bump on the inside. And then spun his wheels left, right and centre. Yeah. Frustration kicking in there, and he just needed to be patient and get himself back on the track. But
you know what, Mike? He did this at Zolder, and he was running really, really well and really solidly. He was in the top 5, and he had a similar sort of spin, and just started doing donuts on the grass and lost all of it. And just was really, really, really unlucky with his race, but actually had fantastic pace as per.
Yeah, I mean, he's gone from 5th down to 14th with that, which is hugely disappointing for him. But that has pretty much been the story of 2 seasons for him, hasn't it? I mean, first season he was brilliant, but he's just not been. I mean, I can only assume it's due to a lack of practice, time in the seat available to him, or something to that effect, But it's just not happened for him.
No, not quite. Darrell. Do you know what? That's so unlucky, because he's probably just crept millimetres over the curb there, and it's totally bit him.
Yeah, and that is basically the story of the race so far, isn't it? Is drivers just making minuscule errors. I mean, we're talking inches, you know, or as you say, millimeters, basically, and it's making the difference between hero and zero at the moment. So,
Like we said though, big risk, big rewards. You know, pushing the limits that much is sometimes the difference between setting a lap 3/10 quicker than your rival, or being the wrong way around in the barrier.
yeah, as we see, Ash Humphries get it really wrong through the
Oh,
last
he's
corner.
gone right.
And another position there for Matty Heaton, and he's in 11th now, 1.7 seconds off the top 10, so he's flying along quite nicely in that Lamborghini, and seems to be very happy with it. So
Looks like a good package in the wet, that Lamborghini. I was going to touch on it earlier, Mike. I think Wes did pretty well when we were at Zolder. I seem to remember, it might have been Matty actually, but I do seem to remember the Lamborghini working really well in the wet. So there's no surprise to see Matty and Wes, well, Wes holding on to the back of the battle for the lead. We know Wes is a fast driver, but I'm not really surprised to see Matty carving his way through. And it's a shame he had a qualifying ban, really, because you get the feeling that he could have been on maybe it's Rich Arnold's pace or Kevin DeHaan's.
yeah, he could have been a little bit of a surprise package, and I don't mean that in a negative way, just meaning that, as we said, it's that type of race really where somebody can pop up out of nowhere. I mean, a little bit like Rich has, although Rich has done it a few times this season, but he's certainly, you know, 6th position quali, he's still 6th in the race. You know, it's someone like that who can get a really, really good result today, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of, I wouldn't mind seeing that for the last race of the season. It just sort of put a smile on someone's championship that might not have necessarily gone entirely their way this season. I think that would be quite poetic and quite nice to see this evening.
Indeed. And while we're chatting away there, we're just seeing Humphries putting some real pressure on Davis now. Damien Humphries is somebody who sets up more for a race, and so he usually is quicker in a race than he is in quali. And he certainly seems to be that. You know, qualified in 10th, lost a few positions off the start, but battled his way back up into 10th. 9th now, due to other people having issues around him, and now battling away with Alan Davis for 8th. So his pace in that Lexus, as we see the all-Japanese battle through the corkscrew, Honda against Lexus. It's almost like watching the Super GTs in Japan.
Oh, excellent series. Love those GT cars.
A friend of mine, I think it was Damien actually, shared some side-by-side action the other day between a GTR and an NSX in the Super GT series, and my comment was, God, I wish that was on any software other than Gran Turismo, because I think they've got exclusive rights for Gran Turismo. But oh God, if it was just please on anything else, because it's just such a fab series. It's basically just GT3 cars with just immense amounts of downforce and power. It's kind of like DTM on steroids, almost like.
Yeah, that's a perfect way of describing it.
Yeah, because I mean DTM is a little bit quicker than these, and they got DRS and things, and the GT Super GTs are just that little bit quicker again. So anyway,
Yeah, they're a lot lighter and a lot more grippier, aren't they?
yeah, absolutely. But anyway, we digress. As usual, we usually do. We always end up talking about some random nonsense that's got nothing to do with the race in front of us, but that's what happens in GT racing, unfortunately. It's not like touring cars where you're nose to tail for the entire race and trying not to die from, you know, being hit from behind or hoping your internet doesn't crap out. It's a very different kettle of fish. But let's just take a quick run through the field then. We've had just shy of 15 minutes of racing so far, and just about to cross the line and start lap 9 is Alex Kingston, still leading the race at 2.5 seconds ahead of Dominic Ingle, who was 1.8 seconds ahead of Adam Foster, followed by Wes Beaker. So that front four all covered by 5 seconds at the moment. So that isn't a massive gap in this type of racing, and there's still plenty of time in this race. And of course, you know, as we discussed before the race when we were speaking to some of the drivers, you know, some of these drivers could be trying to go all the way without making a pit stop, which will suddenly gain them 60 seconds. we don't know who's going to try it, if anyone's going to try it. We know it's possible, but it's all a little bit of an unknown at this point. Of course, there is no mandatory pit stop. It's just a case of usually it's the quickest strategy is to do a pit stop. So we still have all that yet to come. Graham Morris in 5th, driving really well again this week, and he's 8 seconds back off because then you've got Rich Arnold currently under pressure from Dehaan, and then you've got his teammate Davis who's under pressure from Humphries. So those are the two battles we'll keep an eye on, and then Dan Stevens rounds out the top 10. He's about to be under pressure from what is a very quick Matty Heaton, and Richard Arnold, I don't know if he ducked out of that or what, but let's just take a look. No, he just got his line wrong out of the corkscrew, and through went Kevin Dehaan, who's now up to 6, but he just got his line wrong there, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame, but there we go. Richard Arnold down to 7th, Kevin Dehaan up to 6. So it looks like some people like Kevin, maybe Damien Humphries, have sort of qualified quite badly, but they do have pace.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if they've not necessarily had time to have a qualifying setup and they've just sort of gone for a race setup. Because I was about to say there's a battle for P10. I think Matty might have had a little mistake and Dan's crept back up the inside. He's clattered the bump there though.
It was showing there was some contact, so let's just take a look and see. It might have just been a little door bang because neither of them have spun around or anything, so just a little bit of door banging perhaps. But yeah, so Matty getting along, yeah, that's all it was, just a little bit of side by side through that section. Matty getting up alongside Dan. And Dan is now off the track according to this. Yeah, Dan's had a little off, so he's 2 seconds behind Matt now, who is now in the top 10. So all good stuff. Just noticing Ash Humphries back down to 14th again now, so he's lost some time. Lloyd Reid is back up to 15th after early issues, so those two will have a battle coming up. And Humphries has got past Davis. We've missed it. So let's see if we can take a look at the replay. Here they are coming through the corkscrew, and again the Honda on the inside. Perhaps the Honda prefers the inside line there, because we saw Rich taking a very similar line, didn't we?
Yeah.
It might just be that just could just be where it drives best, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no sort of right or wrong answer in the rain, is there? There's kind of like you just find your own place of where you can get the car gripped in.
But what we did see then was a PDF move from Mr. Damien Humphries getting himself up into 8th, and there's been contact between Davis and Heaton apparently. Davis did go off track in that first corner. I think the presence of Humphries just really threw Davis off his braking point, and he went to turn in, and I think he just didn't realise he didn't have enough room to turn in there. Matty, that wasn't intentional, nothing major, but they've both carried on with no major issues, which is good to see. But yes, just a little bit of contact there between the Lamborghini and the Honda.
Yeah, I think Matty will be praying for a clean race against Alan, because it seems like whenever those two come up against each other, there's some form of contact.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Darrell Weaver's going off again.
Beakhouse is up past. Foster and Beakhouse battling with each other. I just saw it flash green and red.
Yeah, we just joined that battle now, and Beakhouse is up the inside of Foster, and through he goes. He's going to run a little wide.
He does it on the dirt.
He does. He stuck it on the dirt, so Foster's going to come back at him, but he's got the inside line.
He held that together.
And Foster just comes across him, cuts it off, and gets up back into 3rd. So these guys 5 seconds back off Ingle now, and Ingle's still 2 seconds off the back of Kingston. and I'm just like sat here in excited like anticipation. I'm on pins basically, waiting for the pit stop schedule to see if anybody's got the balls to not stop. I mean, that is the only question in my mind now: is have any of these drivers got the balls to not stop and go from start to finish on one tank and one set of tyres? Yeah, we just don't know. I mean, I'm hoping somebody just gives it a shot. Somebody who's got nothing to lose and they've got a car that's quite light on fuel. Perhaps one of the Hondas or one of the McLarens.
Maybe it's even someone like Lloyd Reed, who's typically up there and isn't.
Yeah. I was about to say the same for Ash Humphries. So yeah, I mean, we were thinking the same thing basically. Is if one of those got a non-pit stop race in them, because you think that's a minute they would save. All right, you'd lose, 80
might
seconds.
lose 40 seconds with pace, but there's 20 seconds you gain back from
exactly, which could completely change your race. So I'm excited by that prospect. So Ingle closing in a little bit on Kingston. He's taken about half a second out of him in the last couple of corners, so it looks like perhaps Kingston is either fuel saving or starting to struggle a little bit for consistency, as we see Ingle more than struggle for consistency. He Tokyo drifted that all the way along the kitty litter and carries on as if absolutely nothing has happened. I mean, that is some serious talent. Heaton and Davis having another ding-dong. Heaton getting the better of Davis on this occasion. Let's take a look and see what's happened there. Heaton very wide into turn 1. Very, very wide indeed. Or turn 1 and 2, I suppose. Well, I suppose turn 1 technically is the start-finish straight, isn't it? Because it doesn't actually go straight at any point.
It goes into 2 and then 3, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We'll call that 1 and 2.
It's just all one big curve. Davis done the same there as what Bakehouse did, just dipped a wheel on the dirty stuff, and that was enough to make him lose a position. So that is Matty Heaton up into 9th now, having a great drive so far, from last to 9th. So where are we then? We are under an hour to go now, so 23 minutes into the race, and still plenty of excitement to go, but we are keeping an eye on this battle for the final podium position. I mean, it's looking pretty dead set now, isn't it, for Kingston for the championship?
I was about to ask, Mike, do you know the mathematics on the championship, i.e. what the gaps are and what certain people need to do to win?
No, because I don't think, to my knowledge,
there's no tables, is there?
they've posted standings. No, they have posted tables, but for some reason it's signed me out of Steam, so it's not letting me log into to the thing. I can't remember my password for Steam. I got it. I'm wondering whether the drop scores have been applied to this. No, they can't have. Yeah, because the last tables posted by Adam were the ones that are on Sim Racing GP, which, as far as I'm aware, didn't include the drop score systems. So unless it does, but if they didn't, why would he have posted it? I guess.
Matty's passed Demo.
Oh, that's come around pretty quick, hasn't it? So let us jump on board. And think Damo must have made a mistake, because I mean he was a good way ahead. Yeah. I'm expecting a mistake down at turn 1, perhaps, but.
He'll do the classic thing and probably run wide. That seems to be the most normal. Yeah, he's gone off. He's gone wide.
He's just got his braking wrong. But Heaton's benefited from a few down into there, doesn't he? But
Yeah, he's not far away from Wes, all things considered. He's only, what, 9, let's say 15,
20 odd seconds.
27.
Yeah.
He's probably about 30 seconds, maybe he's 25, 30 seconds away from the back of Wes.
Indeed. I'm driving very well. Very, very well indeed. And it is definitely a case of what could have been. But at the same time, there's still 55 minutes of this race left. So lots can happen for him. And hopefully
Definitely.
he'll continue to make some good progress. But 4 seconds up the road next to Richard Arnold. But I suspect Humphries is quite quick today in that Lexus. So he may well come back at him. We will see. I don't know if Heaton was catching Humphries before.
Time will
Humphries had
tell.
that off. It will. That's what time does. It tells. So this battle's still ongoing, but no change as it stands.
He just dropped off the back a little bit, Wes, but he seems to have reeled Ad back in. So I wonder if there's just nothing to split these two, and it's maybe a case of he who makes the least mistakes will come out on top.
Yeah, quite possibly. Sorry, I was just taking a look at the dropped score ones that were provided. And there's a huge differential in points, so I don't think drop scores have been provided to the scores that we do have. So what I'm assuming is that Kingston's pretty much going to have to finish something like 7th or 8th for Ingle or Foster to even have a sniff, but probably even lower than that, and maybe have some sort of major accident where he ends up sort of a lap down. That's it. Other than that, I think it's pretty ominously in favour of Kingston. But it's been a great championship battle all season, you've got to say. And, I think if Ingle had a bit more time, because he struggles for time, in terms of getting into the lobby, and pretty much only setting one lap for quali and things like that. And, Foster's had a couple of issues and incidents, so it probably could have been a little bit closer. But nonetheless, it's gone down to the last race of the season, and that's all we can ask, really.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think in a season where the McLaren's not necessarily been the strongest car, maybe it's not even the second strongest car in the field, he can still be pretty proud with taking it mathematically to the end and giving himself half a shout anyway. And you've got to wonder what could have been with Dom as well, so many times. I think, how many rounds has Dom missed? Or he's not missed anything, actually, has he?
I think he's missed one.
In the back of my mind, he missed one.
But obviously with the drop scores, that isn't so much of a problem. It's more, his lack of time to actually come in. He's just got to jump in his seat, do a quali lap, and then race. It can't be comfortable.
You think of some of the drives he's put in though, like that one at Kyle Army was just absolutely ridiculous, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Little sort of moments like that. It feels like a what could have been for Dom. I feel like he definitely should have been closer to Alex than what he is. Yeah,
I mean, as you say, he's driven superbly for the most part, but just not quite had as much luck as some of the others, maybe. Difficult to put your finger on, isn't it?
Definitely. One person who I've certainly been impressed with this season, and I think you'll back this up, is Graham Morris, and especially the last few races. How good's Graham Morris come at the end of this season?
Yeah, as he drives down into the... I think we've had a game crash.
We just lost the... I was going to say, we've just lost the game there, haven't we?
Yeah, so it's just me, so I think I'm going to quit out and go back in and hope...
Why is it always the wet races? It happened at Suzuka.
It did, didn't it? Yeah, that's very, very true. Right, let's see if we can get back in. I wondered if it was my internet, but you're still there, so it can't be.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm just going to pop into the race chat and make sure that they're still going for it and it's not just us. Give me 2 seconds.
My game has crashed. It won't let me back in. Okay, bear with us, folks. As you can see, we're having some technical difficulties. wondering whether the server has completely crashed because.
The server has completely crashed.
I
Mike.
was going to
It's
say
not
I
just
thought it
us,
has.
it's everyone.
Yeah, because it's crashed my game as well. Oh, you are.
Oh,
It's come back now.
what happened to you?
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm still
Oh,
here.
yeah. Sorry, I heard a plinky plonk noise as if you'd gone.
No.
Right. So some are still on, some aren't. So
Would this be an abandoned race?
I'm not sure what they're gonna do because some people have managed to carry on, and some people haven't. Some people are coming back in. Some people are now back into the pit lane. I suspect if they're all on voice, what they would probably do is
Get
line up
themselves back in the right order.
and
Yeah.
restart as if it was a safety car. That would be the sensible thing to do. Whether that can be organised or not, I do not know. But yeah, the server did completely crash there, but it has come back up. So we will see what happens. But as it stands,
I'll disappear again, Mike, and just go into the race chat and let you know what happens. So if I'm gone for a couple of minutes, you know why.
no problem. There we are. We're lucky we got our spy in the sky, as it were, with Aaron shooting off into the race chat and seeing what our options are at this point. So somebody hasn't made it back into the server. So I suspect, as I say, they will probably try to do some sort of reset, whether it be stopping all the drivers on track and getting everybody into order, or whether everybody goes into the pit lane maybe, and then goes out one by one, and then does sort of a new rolling start. Maybe it's difficult situation to manage, and of course you've got Foster in the pits, who's a championship contender. Mooney Beerhouse is in there. So those guys have all not had any luck. So those are the guys that have been disconnected along with us in the comms box. Yeah, so a bit of a shame. So we're on hold a bit at the moment, guys. Apologies for this. We do not know what is going to happen. I wondered whether it was my internet that had gone, but it isn't my internet. It was the server, which I don't host either. So that's hosted by SimRacing GP. So clearly it's affected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drivers and myself, and some not affected. So Matt Heaton's gone into the pits now as well. So, Aaron, do you have any news for us?
I do. So what the guys are going to do, because of the way that this has happened, a lot of the guys are multiple laps down, and it's just going to take too long to sort out. So the race is void for this week, sadly. What they're about to discuss is whether they're going to treat it like a sprint race and effectively have a cut-off point of where, before the server crashed, and treat that as a race one. And then what they are discussing is whether to race next week or sort of call it quits there. And I think they're going to do a driver vote within the chat. So this race is void. There won't be more racing tonight, Mike. But what happens in regards to whether this is the only race or whether the race gets split in two like a sprint and the second race carries on next week, that will be decided between the boys.
Well, there we go, folks. You have it there. Due to a server crash, this race is null and void. So
just in case this goes down as a sprint race, Mike, should we give someone a driver of the race so they still get a point?
yeah, I think we probably should.
I feel like it's only fair. I know who my vote goes for, and it's the guy that you're on there. I think he drove superbly before that server crash, Matt Heaton.
Yeah, he certainly did. Yeah.
Look, you've picked a fantastic time to join. The race is void, mate, because the server's crashed.
Oh, well, perfect timing, but not so perfect timing.
Yeah. But we're just deciding on a drive of the race because they might split the event into two and treat it like a sprint and go again next week. So, go on, Mike. Sorry, I interrupted you there. Who's your content?
Yeah, no, I fully agree with your selection there. So, yeah, Matt Heaton it is. Okay. Well, I guess that's it then.
Right, guys, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Luke.
Thanks for coming. Bye. Yeah. That is slightly anticlimactic, but there we go. That is it. So there will be no more racing tonight, which is a bit of a weird one. I was going to say, should we recap the season a little bit, but I don't even know if we can do that yet, because we don't even know if the season's actually finishing or not, do we? So
yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, this, isn't it? It feels a bit like Abu Dhabi in F1 last year. No one quite knows what's going to happen now that the race is over.
Yeah, exactly. It is a bit of a strange one.
Oh, Foster is just putting a chat. Half points rerun, scrap the race. Oh, well, I think. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so that is for them
voting,
to vote basically on what they want to do. So, but yeah, I guess we got a couple of minutes. Obviously, we were expecting to be online for about another hour and 20 minutes yet. So with all the chatting, so just
could ask them if they want to come through for driver interviews, Mike, if you want. See what they say.
Well, I'd say give them a couple of minutes. Let's let them get their vote done. And while they're getting their vote done, we'll try and get some insight into what the plan is. But for now, why don't we discuss the season as a whole generally, and as a sort of a slight aside to that, who would be your driver of the season?
Ooh.
I think the obvious one would be Alex Kingston, new to the league, wins the championship. Really couldn't have done anything better. He's been nailed on the fastest guy all season. But I think in terms of the biggest improver and someone that I'm really, really impressed with, there's two people that come to mind. We touched on it in the race earlier. One of them is Graham Morris. I think he's had a stellar season. He's sort of huffed and puffed since he won that race at Spa all those weeks ago now in season 2. But he seems to have found his mojo a bit in that McLaren. And the last 2 or 3 races, he's been fantastic. And I think we can expect really good things from him next season. I think he could be up there for a contender as best of the rest, and certainly a race winner at that as well. The other guy that sticks in my mind is Lloyd Reed. And you speak to any of the guys, and no one's got a bad thing to say about Lloyd Reed. A gentleman on the track, a gentleman off the track, and he just seems to have really clicked with that Audi. And tonight is probably the first night that I can remember where he's not quite had the pace, and I think that speaks wonders for Lloyd, because in season 2, in the McRari, as we nicknamed it, I can remember there was a few times where he'd be out the front and he'd spin, or sometimes he just didn't have the pace at all and the consistency wasn't quite there. And he's hopped in that Audi this season and he's been phenomenal from the get-go. I think Spain was a fantastic result for him as well a couple of rounds ago. So they're my 2 contenders for driver of the season. I don't know how you guys feel, if there's anybody else that comes to mind.
I would agree with Kingston, as you said, new to the league and was absolutely smashing it. And obviously giving Foster a run for his money, which we didn't really expect to see someone do. We obviously wanted it and we thought someone will, but you never actually think it'll happen.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm trying to say. I think the other person I'll probably mention is Ingle. As much as he's had his ups and downs, it's always been that dark horse who's always featured in that top area and it's always had a good result. but he's had his ups and downs throughout the season as well. So I suppose maybe as in like a runner-up to driver of the season, maybe he's someone to consider.
Yeah, true. Very true. Very good points. I totally forgot about Domingo, to be honest. We mentioned that it feels like a season of what could have been for Dom. It feels like he maybe
Yeah.
should have been a little bit closer to Alex in terms of the championship battle. And we've just reflected of some of like his fantastic drives from the back all the way through to the front. Mike alluded to the fact that he's not really got that much time to practice with him looking after the kids and with work and stuff. So to be with all those factors included, and when you weigh up the season that Dom's had with those factors, it's actually phenomenal that he's within a championship battle, because I feel like if it was any one of us, we'd be mid-table or struggling, yeah. And Dom
Well, I
still
struggle
turns
with no
up every
practice
week.
on race room, never mind on 80s.
Dom turns up every week and he just smashes it out of the park. He has one lap in qualifying and he's P2 sometimes. It's I think, yeah, that's a very good shout, Doug. He's been absolutely rapid this season, and that Aston Martin combo's been unreal, hasn't it? So
Yeah,
I guess
I think the
bud.
other reason why I mentioned it as well, he's one of these where he can't dedicate a load of time to it, but still turns up every week and puts on a good show. I think
Yeah.
that's really part of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, spot on, mate. And I'm sure Michael second that as well, and probably agrees with everything we've said. I hope you agree, Mike. Otherwise, you've just made me look a fool.
That's my job, isn't it? No, I do agree with what's been said. Totally. For me, we've got almost three categories. You sort of got the top 5 drivers, then you got the next sort of 8 drivers, and then you got the lower drivers. So for me, I'm going to pick one from each of those sort of categories, and then my overall driver. Of the top drivers, I think Kingston has to take it purely consistency, and has come in new to the league and is challenged these very, very quick drivers and is on the verge of taking a championship. Of the best of the rest guys, I would say Graham Morris has been absolutely outstanding this season, and has just got better and better and better as the weeks have gone by. And then of the lower echelons, if you like, or newer drivers and things like that, I think Matty Heaton has just got better and better as well. He's had issues, he's had incidents, but he's been superb. But my overall driver of the season would be Lloyd Reed. And I know I didn't mention him in those 3, but that's because I wanted to give kudos to as many people as possible. But I think Lloyd has been outstanding this season. And he's just got better and better and better. And yeah, I totally agree that, you know, the likes of him and seeing Morris improving is great, and hopefully we'll see them fighting 4 championships in the near future. We are joined now by a couple of drivers, and yes, a sad end to proceedings. But what can you tell us about your plans, then, gentlemen? I don't know who wants to take this question, but you've been off. You've had a little vote with the drivers to see what you want to do, and what can you update us on?
Right. If you guys can do it, we would probably going to do a rerun next week.
Okay.
So it was 50 minutes left to go, so we couldn't really do half points because it wasn't half race. We can't do a 50-minute sprint because we couldn't get people in the right places. So it was either rerun or scrap it, and we voted for rerun next week.
Okay.
There we go.
Same conditions and everything.
I can be available.
Still all
Cool.
to play for then. Yeah, bro. But yeah, we would just fill in some time talking about nonsense as we always do. So yeah, that's all good. Yeah, I mean, well, not much to discuss really. I guess then it's just one of those unfortunate glitches that happens. But I guess you guys have got a dress rehearsal out of the way, ready for the real thing next week.
Yeah, it's exactly that. We're not quite sure. I think it was glitched out because then the server come back about 2 minutes later, and some people were still driving around. But like 5 of us already jumped to the pits thinking it died. So
Yeah, it happened to me. We got kicked out as well. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I think it was like 6 drivers and me. So yeah, it was obviously some sort of fatal error somewhere. But there we go. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if my co-commentator, well, not so much Dougie, who's only been here for 30 seconds, but I don't know if Aaron's got any specific questions or anything to ask. But it's a slightly anticlimactic at this point. But yeah, I guess we just look forward to rinse repeat next week, but without the glitches and hopefully a full race.
yeah, simple as that. Yeah.
I think I won't really ask any questions. I feel like the
Save them
interviews.
for next week.
That's what I'm thinking. We did award a driver of the race just in case it went to half points, and you got it, Matty. So well done.
Thank you. The lads are in the group chat telling me apparently I got it. I didn't quite believe it. To start with, but I'm
We were
gutted
sort
it
of-
went down. Absolutely gutted because yeah, I was feeling really comfortable there.
Scything your way through.
Oh, and I was-
Absolutely scything your way
As
through.
soon as I got up behind Rich, I was like, flash, flash. I've never been one to flash people in races because I know. But as soon as I was behind Rich, I was like, come on, then.
To be honest, guys, before the server went down, it was actually a really good race. I was a little bit worried that with the type of track that it is and how tight it is, it could just be a Brands Hatch with runoffs, but it was actually quite good. I mean, Matty carved his way through people. I think Adam was under pressure from Wes for a little bit. There was quite a lot of overtakes, and I mean, Mike was smashing the replay button every lap, so it actually was quite good, quite a good spectacle. It's just a shame the servers died.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still gonna go back and watch the stream from what we've got.
Oh,
Because there was
yeah,
moments
by all
there
means.
where, like, I could see people losing it, people getting really close, dodging. It looked like it was an incredible race up to that point. So
It was. I was having a lot of fun watching it. I'm a little bit gutted, but
me too.
we go again
Seems
next
off,
week.
isn't it?
We do. We go again.
There we
We
go.
always go again. And it means I can have a beer early, which is wonderful. Win-win, right?
The
Well,
shop's still open. I could go and get some.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Absolutely. Early night. Wonderful.
these things
Oh
happen.
well, thanks for letting us know, gents, and yeah, we'll see you again next week, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we get a proper finish to the season.
Will do. Round 10.
Cheers.
Yeah, take it easy, everyone. Again, to all viewing, sorry about the glitch, but these things do happen. Technology, unfortunately, does sometimes slightly let us down. But we'll be back next week, rearing to go, and we'll get this season rounded off in style. So, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next week for a full